Okay, so in the last tutorial, um, I kind of showed just to kind of start to fine tune some things because this mesh is starting to get a little dense in here. How to use this tool right here, the smoothest surface of the mesh without changing its original shape to get the topology flowing a little bit. The smooth tool to kind of start to get some of the creases out in the center, but some of that can be, a lot of that can be fixed also in the next step in ZBrush and Mudbox. And then I also showed the soft selection tool because generally speaking at this point with this much mesh, if you're trying to make adjustments using the soft select tool to kind of affect regions of the model instead of grabbing it vertice by vertice is probably the most helpful way to work. So for this next step, I'm going to show how to close off the mouth, the nose, and the eyes and get this thing one step further. So I'm going to turn off soft selection to make sure that's off. And the way I like to work here is I like to not work in symmetry mode for this. So I'm going to turn symmetry off and I'm going to delete the left side of my model again. So press right click and go to face and then carefully make this selection here. I recommend using the orthographic view. And on second thought, doing it from the top view might be a little bit better. Ooh, the head of my model needs some work there. So select the left side of the face right there and I'm going to delete it out. And if you see any strays that show up here, it's really important to make sure you delete these. So make sure it's going right down the center. This will just make it a lot easier to work here. And now under the channel box layer editor, I'm going to turn off the visibility of my eye and I'm going to work on the eye socket first. So I'll kind of navigate my camera to the inside of the model and select this edge loop that's going around the outside of the inner eye there. So you see there, I'm selecting those edges. And I'm going to extrude that eye out. And so what I'm thinking about is I want this model to be watertight. And so the idea here is that make this watertight. This will be the eye socket and it'll be the area kind of behind the eye. So no one's going to be able to see this area in the model, but it's just important that it be there. So I'll right click and go to edge, hold down shift and then double click to get that edge loop. And then from here, I'll make sure to be in the modeling toolkit. So I'm going to switch my layout a little bit. I'm going to extrude. So select that edge right there and extrude. And I make sure to press the world button here. So it looks like a power button, so press that. And then I'll use, for me it's the blue arrow. I'm going to pull it out. And then I'm going to scale it up. Scale it out slightly. I'm very careful not to scale it up too much. And the main thing you want to keep out for is you don't want this geometry that we're making to overlap with any of the geometry of the skin. So in the end, when this model's done, we want this whole model to exist without any geometry overlapping itself. And so something else you can do here is next to the blue arrow, it's showing up for me as a yellow box. It might show up as a blue box for you. Scale it forward. If you scale it, oops, got a little carried away. You can also press Q to get out of extrude and the edge loop will still be selected. And so I'll just do what I was about to do there in the normal scale mode. So I just press Q to get out of extrude and then pressed R on my keyboard to get to scale. And if you drag that forward, you can lock it into position so that it becomes flat. It's kind of okay if this is still a little rounded, but that just might be a helpful tool just to kind of get this cleaned up a little bit. I'm just going to position this slightly. Oh, interesting. Okay, I have a weird edge here. Just going to look carefully at that. Okay. That edge is okay. It spooked me a little bit, but that's all right. I think, and just gonna adjust a few vertices here. One thing too when I'm moving vertices is I'll press Q in between just to get those move controls out of the way, because sometimes selecting vertices it'll kind of get in the way of things. So I'll just press Q to kind of get rid of it real quick and bring it back with W. Okay, so long story short, the idea was to extrude that edge loop that was there. So select that edge loop, extrude it out, make sure that it's in world mode rather than local mode, and extrude it out and scale it up so that it makes the eye socket there. You can also turn on the eye just to kind of see how things are going. So I could get away with making this quite a bit larger. So I'll select that edge loop, scale it up, scale it out a little bit. I don't want to get too crazy with that. And turn the eye on back again. And it's okay if the eye overlaps with it in here. It's definitely not the end of the world. So you don't need to make it so the eye like 100% fits in there. I mean, if you can, that's great. But you know, if it's not the end of the world. So with that edge loop selected, I'm going to extrude again. And so this time I'm going to press this button right here. Just any old extrude button works though. And I'll press world mode once again. Do the same step. So I'm going to bring it out, and then I'll press R on my keyboard just to scale it up. And then I'll use this blue one to just lock it so that now it's kind of a straight circle right there. You see how it's like a little curvy in there? If you just scale with all the edges selected, just scale it like that, it'll flatten it all out. And I can just turn on the eye again in there. I can see that I didn't need to make it quite so tall. Again, this doesn't need to be perfect. It's way more important that this is clean rather than, you know, being perfectly laid out. Because again, you know, we're not going to see it. So again, with that edge loop selected, same thing. Just extrude. Press the power button to make it world mode. Pull it out. And then I'm going to go to scale mode. So I'm going to get out of extrude and scale it in. And so now we're kind of worrying about the back of the eye now. So we're just going to bring it to a point, or not a total point, but you know, to a small circle here, and we're going to end up closing this thing off in the next step. You know, so mine's overlapping like that a little bit, but I'm not worried about that. So here, I just scaled that in to that point, and with that edge loop selected, I'll try under the modeling toolkit to press bridge. Sometimes this will work, sometimes it won't. I'll see. So it didn't work this time because there's an invalid number of edges. So what I'm going to do here is under the modeling toolkit, I'm just going to hold down shift and select one edge and then go across to it to the edge that seems most natural across from it. And then press bridge and create a bridge between those. And I might need to just do this a few at a time. Once I did that one, oops, and make sure that you're selecting the right edges here. You see how it didn't work? So I tried this, so I didn't have this edge right here selected where my cursor is, and I pressed bridge, and I got an error message. But then I held down shift and got that edge selected and pressed bridge, and it closed it off. So, you know, if it doesn't work right away, sometimes making a small adjustment like that will kind of bring it back to our side. So with that edge loop selected, I'm going to try this again, and it closed it off. And so from here, we can start using the multi-cut tool because we have some n-gons here, and we want to make sure that this thing, at the end of the project, this is all, hopefully all quads, and if not all quads, this is the place where it's okay to have some triangles. So using the multi-cut tool, it's a little bit of a Rubik's Cube. So I'm not going to do it there. I'm going to use the multi-cut tool to kind of draw in some geometry there. And use it again here. Gonna have one going across. If it's not obvious by now, not my strong suit here. But you're trying to get this to be quads, and if there's a triangle in there, it is a-okay. So I have one triangle, and it looks like the rest of this is quads. And if you recall, one way to check if you got this right, and it would have been ideal. I feel like looking at this, there would have been a way for me to get this without having a try in there, but you know, maybe I'm wrong on that. But remember, one thing we can do just to test this model to make sure that no n-gons were added in this step of making the eye socket. And I think this is a good time to check. I'm just going to save my project real quick though. Is if you go up to Mesh, Clean Up, press the Options box. And so it's Mesh, Clean Up, Options box. This window will come up. And just make sure these two are checked off, so faces with more than 4 sides and concave faces. With the object selected, and press Apply. Oh, interesting. Okay, so I have a few problems here. Shoot. That is new. All right. So I got some bad news here on my model. Let's look at this. I'm gonna edit undo and then edit redo just to see. So I have this area of the lip, that area of the lip, bottom of the nose, inner mouth, and the chin. Okay. So I'm gonna undo. So first, somehow I ended up with a stray vertex there. So I'm gonna delete that. Ended up with a stray vertex here, so I'm going to delete that. There's one I messed up there, but I'm going to just double check on that soon. Then in here, there was a problem in here. That looks all right to me, but it's saying there's a problem, so. All right, so I probably got rid of 2 of the error messages of, I believe, the 4. So let's just try this again. Man. Okay, so ended up with another n-gon there. It's very strange. Okay, so just keep doing this to continue to fix this model up. So I have one under the lip, apparently. Guess I have to focus on it. I'm just going to turn off concave faces and see faces with more than 4 sides. So press apply again. Interesting. Okay, so I just had some weird stray vertex right there. Maya just making it hard on me here. Okay, so sometimes pressing the 5 button can be helpful, because I see here it's showing me some stray vertices that must have been when I was using the multi-cut tool. My guess is when I was using the multi-cut tool, I must have created 2 vertices at the same time. So if it's showing up like this, but you've done this cleanup tool and it's telling you there's a problem, sometimes press 3 and it'll kind of show some stray vertices here. Okay, so I'm going to press it again. Okay, so that cleaned up the geometry. I can see here that I have some concave faces. Right here. Less of a problem, not too worried about that, but I'm more worried about 5-sided faces. So I think this is cleaned back up again. So that was a fun detour. But you know that might happen to you. So I'm going to leave that tutorial or that part in the tutorial. I'm not going to edit it out. And yeah, if you get some problems, hopefully maybe it'll be a similar problem as that, and you can kind of see what I did there. So again, I'd gotten sloppy before with the multi-cut tool, and I think it added some stray vertices in here, some 5-sided faces. And so I used the mesh cleanup tool in the options box, had these 2 selected right here, and then pressed apply, and it kind of highlights in orange and tries to fix the areas that are a problem. I recommend that just pressing edit undo once it shows you, because its fixes are usually kind of trash, and make the fixes yourself and then redo it. But so now we have that inner eye built. So let's do the same step. This for the nose and the mouth, that's the same thing pretty much. So for the nose, I'm going to right click, do edge, select this edge loop right here, and then I'm just going to go ahead and angle this a little bit. Kind of the way a nostril might aim. Okay. So selected that edge loop, I'm going to extrude, make sure I'm in world mode by pressing the power button, and I'm just going to pull it up. I'll press the R button to scale it in. And it's important, it's more important that the nostril not overlap with this geometry than it have like the perfect depth. And you know, it's not like we need to model the sinuses of the nose, you know, let's just kind of give it a little bit there. And so once that's done, I've just kind of did 2 extrusions just to kind of pull it in there. And it's really important that this edge loop is kind of drawn out well before you're doing this. If you have that edge loop drawn out well and this edge loop drawn out well, this will kind of do it itself. Oh, I think I only extruded once, sorry. I think I misspoke and said I extruded twice just then. So now I'm going to try doing the bridge button. It might work, it might not. Let's see. Okay, this time it worked right away. And remember, if it doesn't work, just select one edge, hold down shift, and move across and bridge that, and then you might just have to do it one at a time. But this time it worked all at once. And then from here, I'm going to use the multi-cut tool and start drawing in some quads. So I'll just start from this side, draw a quad there, press return, and looks like I'm going to end up, oh no, here we go. So there and there. So this should be all quads for this section. And I'll right click and go to vertex just to look at it, make sure that looks okay. And so from here, I'm going to have my model selected in objects mode, and then I'm just going to go back to the mesh clean up an options box and press apply. It's still showing me that error message, which I don't care about. And then I'll just do four-sided. I'm kind of determining that's the only thing I really care about that much. I mean, concave faces is good to fix, but anyway, I'm rambling. So I just did that to make sure that I didn't cause any weird problems in the mesh. And so now it's time to do the mouth. And so the mouth we could do one of two ways. I could kind of continue to do the same thing as we've been doing here. But I think what will end up being cleaner is if we go ahead and mirror this geometry back to the other side and turn on symmetry to do this, because the mouth, it intersects with the middle of the face here, unlike the nostril or the eye. And if we do it just on one side here, we can see better what we're doing, but unless you're just super clean with how you do it, it could cause some problems doing it without having the whole model mirrored over. So I'm going to mirror the geometry, press Q, and I'm going to navigate inside the model, and I might just, oh, that didn't work. Okay. And so here, I'm going to make sure symmetry is turned on, Object X, and I'm going to hold down Shift and select this edge loop. You can just double click it to get the edge loop there. And I'm going to press extrude. And here, I'm going to extrude out what's going to be the inner lip. You know, so the thickness of the lip here. So just like a thin one like that. And so I'm just going to get the extrude. Then from here, I'm going to press R on my keyboard for the scale button. I'm just going to scale it vertically in, because we want, you know, it's the inside of the lip we're doing right here. So we don't want to, we kind of want to just keep it mostly flat. So again, I just did the extrusion I just made was this right here. Okay. And so, and this is, other than the symmetry, this is the same as the nostril and the eyes here. So just building out the inner part of the mouth here. So if I extrude this again, let me fix this up just real quickly. Okay, so I'm going to select that edge loop. See if I can get this thing working. Press extrude. Okay, I got the arrow button going up, which is not super helpful. So if I drag it this way, it's overlapping itself. So if I drag it down, it's kind of doing the right thing. So I'm just going to drag it down. We're worrying about the inner mouth. And with symmetry on, the extrude button becomes very simple, which can be bad because, you know, oftentimes you want more control than this, but that's okay. So we'll just press the W button to do the move tool to kind of start moving it in, and the scale tool to mainly start scaling it up. If you kind of feel the inside of your mouth, you know, we're just trying to feel something out. It's like that. If I scale it left or right, that can be a problem because it can overlap. So you don't want to do too much there. So from here, what I'm going to suggest doing, and I should have said this for the past step, is I'm going to turn off symmetry now. So in the modeling toolkit, turn off symmetry. And you might want to edit undo. Here, I'm going to edit undo just to kind of show this. So I'm going to move back to the point where I had just extruded that inner mouth there. And then I'm going to turn off symmetry. And I'm going to double click to select that edge loop. Make sure the whole edge loop is selected there. So I still have that inner extrusion of the mouth, you know, that first extrusion we did inside of the mouth right here. You can kind of see those faces in there. But I kind of press edit and undo to kind of bring it back to this point. And so turned off symmetry. Then I'm going to extrude, and it's really important to make sure you are in world mode, and then pull it up and kind of get all of our controls back, which will be nice. No, actually, yeah, no, we still want world mode. So now when I push it out this way, it doesn't go kind of crazy like it was before. But we're trying to shape out the inner mouth. And here, I'm going to have to do some cleanup because Maya just really making my life hard today. Just not shaping things out very well. So I'm going to just smooth this out a little bit. And I just realized I need to be back in symmetry mode for that, so that's fun. So I'm going to re-enable symmetry mode. I'm making this seem more complicated than it is just because I'm just seem to be struggling today. But I just re-enabled symmetry so I could shape this thing out a little bit better than it was shaped before. And no need to get it perfect. This is the inside of the mouth. No one's ever going to see this, you know? So it's more important that this stays clean. So focus mostly on this being clean rather than like getting the perfect inside of the mouth. So I'm going to disable symmetry again. Select the edge loop, and you can keep symmetry on too if you would like. But I'm going to extrude, turn on world mode. It's that blue arrow to kind of pull it back. So this is going to be the roof of the mouth here. And I'm going to press the rotate button, and I'm going to just start rotating it a little bit. And then the scale button, just so I can flatten this thing out. That way, you see, I use the scale button that's going from the front of the face to the back, and then if I just grab it and then scale it that way, it flattens the whole thing out, so it just becomes a cleaner piece of geometry to work with. So that looks okay. And since I did the step on this edge loop of cleaning up a little bit, now the extrusions that come out of it are going to be a bit cleaner, so that saved me a little work down the pipe here. So try not to put off cleanup work, you know, just kind of do it when you see it, and it'll save you some work in the long run for that reason. So I'm going to extrude this. This is the top of the mouth. And there's not an exact amount of extrusions you need to do for the inner mouth. Again, I just extruded it in world mode by pressing that power button. And so here I'm going to just start scaling this in. And I'm going to end up closing this thing off in the back of the mouth. If you really wanted to kind of build this up, if this is a character where you're going to rig it and all that stuff, I might bring this back and just start kind of maybe do one more extrusion just to start to model the, what do you call it, the esophagus back there, but you know, no tremendous amount of detail, just to kind of block that in. But so for here, with this edge loop selected, I'm going to press bridge, see if it works. It does not. So we're going to need to close this off. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try turning on symmetry. Might be a good time to save. And I'm going to select those edges, try to bridge. So I have symmetry turned on. So I'm selecting the inner edges. So I'm just only selecting that one right there, but since symmetry is on, it's turning that one on as well. Hold up Shift, press that, and then bridge these two. And I'm just going to move out from the center to the edges. gonna get a little messy in here. So I'm selecting all of those now. That did not work. Let's see. So I end up with one try back here on the edge. Okay. So if I end up on it with a try on the edge like that, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to use the multi-cut tool, and I'm just going to, oops, symmetry is still enabled. I'm going to click on that edge, then bring it back to the center. So now that's a quad. Do you see what I just did there? So I have a try there, and then I use the multi-cut tool. I'm going to feed it to the center to turn this try into a quad. And these are all quads, and if I divide a quad in half, you still got, you know, a quad. So just make sure that it's drawn on that edge, then draw it into the center, and press return. So now I have a quad back here, so hopefully the bridge tool will work for this. So I'm going to select this edge loop, and then press bridge. Still nothing. Okay. Okay, so that one, it worked. I didn't really do that much different, but so to fix it, I just shaped things a little bit so that this edge is kind of facing that edge a little better, and this edge is facing that edge a little better. And then I press shift, selected that edge, hold down shift, select that edge right there, and press bridge, and it closed it off. And so from here, I'm just gonna, with symmetry on, I'm just gonna quickly check to make sure that all these are welded together. That looks okay. And so from here, I'm going to check my work on the inside mouth there. So I'm going to go into objects mode, and then I'm going to do mesh, cleanup, options, faces with more than 4 sides selected, and press apply. And got some new ones. Okay. I'm wondering if when I use the multi-cut tool, if I'm just getting a little sloppy there. That's my guess as to what might be happening here. So I'm going to delete that vertice, delete that vertice, and I'm looking forward to not mirroring this anymore. So you see that it just, so a few vertices just got added into the mix there, and I'm not quite sure what caused that. I'm sure there's a definitive reason that is probably my fault why that's happening. But so I'll just do this again. So faces with more than 4 sides, I'll press apply. So there's one 5-sided vertice that I seem to have missed. I'll press 4 just to get a wireframe, just to make sure I'm seeing the whole model. So it's in here. And if it doesn't show up, remember, press 3 on your keyboard. Sometimes it'll show up. Super weird that it does that, but you see here that it did show up. I'm going to turn off symmetry for a second. You see that? So when I'm in 1, it doesn't show up at all. I think there's 2 vertices on top of each other right here. You see that? So there were 2 vertices on top of each other. But if you press 3, it smooths it out and it kind of moves the vertices around, and so it makes it so I can see the stray vertice. And so delete whichever vertice is not connected to the line when this happens. So I'll delete that. Press 1 again. With the object selected, I pressed clean up mesh, and no problems. So now I have a model that has the eye sockets closed in, the nose closed in, the mouth closed in, and the neck I already had closed in from before. But if you need to close in the neck, same techniques. And from here, we're getting really close. If you have a character that has stylized ears, I'm assuming you probably would have modeled that already. If not, go ahead and model that now just by, depending on the stylized character, you just extrude out some ears. And the basic process would most likely be extrude, pull out the ears. This is going to be really rough what I do here. And shape all that. And then select those faces, extrude, and then scale them in using the boxes here. Oh wow, I'm just making all kinds of sloppy selections here. Extrude out. Select these faces. 1, 2, 3, 4. And extrude again. And you can start to get, a stylized ear here. So I extruded one more time. Make a little super square Shrek ear here. So, I would need to shape that more, but that's the amount of geometry you need for a stylized ear. It's just shape it way better than what I did just there. So you can end up with something like that. But what I'm going to show in the next tutorial, I'm going to edit and undo out of that, is I'm going to show how to model a realistic ear. And so modeling a realistic ear, just checking that this model is working, is I'm going to, because these ears, human ears, are pretty complicated and it's pretty difficult in there. And so I'm going to use a totally different technique for modeling the ear. And then I'm just going to weld it on to the model here. And I'm going to show how to do that technique as well in that tutorial. So the ear is up next, and that's going to be the last step in this Maya step before, or this Maya stage before bringing it into Mudbox-ZBrush here.